Well, hello, how the devil are you? It's Alan from Blue Yonder Moto, and today I want to ask you a series of questions. Well, as you can see, today I'm on the Honda Hornet 1000 SP, but that's not actually the subject of today's video. Today's video is about you and whether you should consider downsizing. So I'm going to pose to you a series of scenario questions. So, first one is, you've been riding since your teens. You're a good, experienced rider. You've had the Fireblades, you've had the GSs, but you're kind of getting the inkling that maybe they're not for you anymore. You still like the sports bikes, and once upon a time, you considered yourself quite tasty. You were quite rapid. But one thing you've definitely noticed is you're not as quick as you used to be. But equally, when it comes to bikes, you're no longer that interested in outright speed and track handling. And also, what you're finding is that your riding habits are changing, aren't they? You now prefer to ride on your own. You prefer solo rides. You like to go to different locations. You don't like to follow the herd. You want to do your own thing. But equally, those mega European tours, those 300 plus miles in the saddle every day for a series of days, that doesn't really appeal to you either, does it? And then there's the physical aspects. Moving that big, heavy ADV bike or sports tour around, it's a chore, isn't it? Moving it around the garage or around the drive, it's getting harder by the year. So, does that sound like you? Have you found yourself nodding and saying yes to some of those scenario questions? Indeed, all of those scenario questions. Chances are you have, because judging by the demographics of my channel, the vast majority of you are a bit like me. You've been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt. And, you know, given those scenarios, the chances are, if that is the case, you've been asking yourself the question, is it time to downsize? And if so, could I live with a downsized bike? So, is it time to say goodbye to the Lita sports bikes and the big ADV bikes and move to something more like this? This being a Honda NX500. So let's take the little NX for a ride and let's have a chat about whether or not this could be your only bike and whether it's something you can live with long term. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the pros, the advantages of downsizing, and also the challenges that come with downsizing, which shouldn't be underestimated. And the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it referencing this bike, the NX500, the Honda NX500, which is kind of typical of the lightweight, for want of a better term, the lightweight adventure market, which I think probably a lot of people will be looking at, or potentially a modern retro, I suppose. But as I say, this bike sort of represents those 47 brake horsepower, lighter weight alternatives that you may be considering downsizing to. So without further ado, as they say, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so one of the first things that you're going to be concerned with if you're downsizing is the bike going to be comfortable enough? Are the ergos going to work for you? Are you going to feel the benefit? Well, first of all, comfort wise, this particular bike, this NX500, is extremely comfortable. It's got probably one of the best saddles that I've sat on for a long time. It really is genuinely all day comfortable. The riding position is instantly familiar. If you're used to big adventure bikes, you'll get on this and it, as I say, it will feel very familiar. It's very GS-like in its layout and its riding position. As I say, you're fairly upright, but you're not bolt upright. You are leaning forward just a fraction, just enough to take the weight off your spine. And it's, as I say, a really nice riding position. And while we're on the ergonomics, the weight of the bike, this particular bike is 196 kilos curb weight. And again, that is one of the things you notice instantly. It's despite its roomy riding position and an 830mm seat height, the bike feels incredibly manageable, even if you've got fairly short legs, because of that light weight. And when you're moving the bike around on the drive or in the garage at parking speeds, when you're physically manhandling the bike, it's so easy. It takes all the stress and all the effort out of it. So in terms of ease of use, from a manhandling perspective, from a weight perspective, it's excellent. So along with that capacious riding position, you've got a really good lightweight, low weight, and it carries its weight quite well as well. It doesn't feel in any way top heavy, so it's very confidence inspiring. So if we want to talk about something that links in with ergos, i.e. what is its touring capability? Can you tour on a bike like this? Well, absolutely you can. This particular bike has got this NX has got a really good screen. Could probably do with a little bit higher, and I may get a clip-on attachment for the screen, just to take that extra little bit of wind pressure off. But overall, it gives excellent weather protection. As I say, it can be a tad noisy, but then again, most screens are. But it gives excellent weather protection. So as a solo touring package, the bike is really good. I'm not saying it couldn't be improved, it certainly can, but it's pretty good. You can get luggage for it. All the major manufacturers like SW, Motec, Hepco, Becker, etc., they all do racks and luggage systems that will fit on this particular bike, so you're not limited in that respect. And there's plenty of ironmongery to attach these things to. So as a touring package, as a touring prospect, it's excellent. It's something that I would happily take up to Scotland and ride the North Coast 500 on. In fact, I think this bike is absolutely ideal for it, because it's got an excellent range. It's got a range of well over 200 miles. We'll come on to economy as well in a minute. It's got a range of well over 200 miles, and you know, when you're touring in sort of far-flung places like northern Scotland, where filling stations are fairly well spaced apart, the last thing you want is range anxiety. So in terms of whether it would match your big bike in terms of range, then yeah, I think it probably would. It'd probably be, in some cases, possibly even better. And as we were saying, the ergos and the seat comfort mean that you'll be able to easily take on a full day in the saddle over a number of days as well. So as I say, it's pretty good, I rate it highly. And also, to get you up to Scotland, the bike is extremely capable on the motorway. 47 horsepower doesn't sound an awful lot, but let me tell you, the bike more than holds its own at motorway speeds and a little bit higher. So you know, you can be cruising at 70 and you can pull out and easily accelerate up to 80 if you need to sort of get past a gaggle of sort of slow moving or erratic traffic. So it's pretty good. It's more than up to the job. It dispatches everything with efficiency, and again, I think that is symptomatic of all the bikes in this class. I think if you're looking at the Vogue 525 or the new 625, you'd find it was exactly the same as this. So the next advantage will be cost. These things are going to make a significant impact, positive impact on your wallet compared to your big litre bikes or your litre plus bikes. Let's talk about some of the savings. First of all, the immediate saving will be on insurance. This particular bike, I think I've saved about £150 pro rata this bike, an NX500, to my CB1000 Hornet SP. So it's considerably cheaper on insurance, so that's a big plus. Also, your road tax is going to be less. In the UK, the road fund licence for this bike is £87, whereas on the big bike it's £121. So these savings are starting to rack up. The next thing is on servicing. Now, both the new Hondas are on a service plan, their annual service plan, and this bike's service plan over 3 years is £399, so it's £133 a year covering your servicing at a main Honda franchise. So that is really cheap. That is really good, cheap motoring. The bigger bike is a little bit more expensive. That's £100 over, another £100 over the 3 years. So it's not a major difference, but it is more expensive. This is another saving on this bike. The next thing, which is a really biggie, is fuel economy. This bike is delivering well over 80 miles to the gallon. I'll flash up on the screen exactly what it is at the moment. So that's, you know, fantastic fuel economy, and that's mixed riding. Not riding as gently as I am this morning because I'm trying to commentate as I ride, but in normal riding conditions, yeah, you're getting 80 miles to the gallon, no problem at all. Whereas the big bike, the Hornet, I'm getting 43, 44, that sort of figure. So a major difference, almost 40 miles to the gallon. So immediately there are major cost saving advantages to downsizing to a bike like this. So the next advantage for me is the fact that you're less precious about something like this. This is a £6,800 bike, brand new, which these days is, you know, quite a low cost bike. I know it's not for a lot of people, but for new bikes that is, you know, pretty reasonable pricing. And because of that, and the fact that it's not very attractive to the low lifes of this world, it doesn't attract unwanted attention from the low lifes, from the darker side of society. Also doesn't attract attention from the police neither. You fly literally under the radar with a bike like this. So as I say, from the fact that you're less precious about it, you can park it where you like. This goes back to the ergos as well. You don't really worry about where you're parking it. And as I say, it's not a bike you're going to be worried about where you leave it to the same extent as you would be if you had, say, my 100,000 Hornet, where I would be very concerned where I left it, because it's more attractive to thieves and other lowlives. And the other thing is, as we're going through these series of bends, these bikes can be absolutely great fun. You know, the fact that you've got to work the bike and you're working, the bike's working to achieve speed, means it's more engaging. And it's, you know, that engagement means it's more fun. It's an absolutely fantastic fun package. And all these smaller bikes, these lighter weight, light middleweights, for want of a better term, they're all the same. They're great fun because you, as I say, they're engaging. You've really got to work to achieve that speed and maintain that speed. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Biking is all about fun. And you're doing that while not sort of riding along, ripping along at license losing speeds. So again, that's another major, for me, advantage on these bikes. Right, so I think we've covered all the major pluses, the major pros to downsizing. So let's talk about some of the challenges. Now, the first challenge is the big elephant in the room, and that is our egos. Can your ego cope with riding a 47 horsepower A2 bike? And that challenge to our ego, our riding pride, if you like, shouldn't be underestimated. I mean, if you turn up to the bike meet on an NX500, you're definitely not going to be one of the cool kids. This bike is a lot of things. It's got great virtues, but one of the things it definitely isn't is cool. The bike is going to sit on its own at the corner of the bike meet, and it's not going to attract, again, any attention. It's not going to attract admiring glances, or it's very unlikely to. People aren't going to come up to you and say, "Oh, what's it like, mate? Are you getting on with it really well?" So if you like that sort of thing, this probably wouldn't be the bike for you, and indeed probably some of the other downsized bikes wouldn't be the bike for you neither. So that's something you need to bear in mind. Can your pride, can your ego handle downsizing to something that's still badged as a learner bike, as a beginner bike, as a stepping stone bike? The second challenge goes back as a bit of an overlap to the ease of use. Now, you know, it's got a lovely light clutch of this bike, and that makes it at a nice soft throttle, and that makes it great, and it makes it perfect. Going back to the beginner's thing, it makes it perfect for more novice riders, less experienced riders, shall we say. But personally, I find the light clutch here more of a challenge, more difficult to deal with than the heavier clutch and the heavier controls, the heavier brakes on the big bike, on the Hornet 1000. I find the clutch control much easier actually on the heavy clutch on the big bike than I do on this. So again, you know, that is one of the things from a ease of use perspective that you need to think about. You know, you've been used to the bigger bikes and the way that a bigger bike feels and the balance and low speed control that you get to a big bike. It will feel a big culture shock when you first get on a lightweight bike like this, and it will take a little bit of adapting to, I would say. So that's challenge number 2. Challenge number 3 is another biggie. So if you're coming off the bigger bikes, the 1250 GSA, 1300 GS, or say the multi-striders, you're going to be used to having lots of electronic toys on the bike. With the possible exception of some of the Chinese bikes, these bikes don't have all those sort of electronic wizardry. For example, this NX doesn't have any rider modes. It doesn't have cruise control. There's no hill hold control. It doesn't have electronic suspension adjustment. In fact, the suspension doesn't adjust much at all. The only adjustment that you've got is rear preload on the rear spring. That is it. That's all you're going to get. One of the things you may have been concerned with a downsize move is, will the quality of the bike feel less than, you know, what you've been used to? Well, inevitably I think it probably will, but you shouldn't underestimate just how well made these new bikes are. These little bikes come really well equipped, actually, decently equipped. I mean, look at this. It's got a really nice 5-inch colour TFT, lots of functionality. It's got the road sync built in, baked in. It's got very good quality forks. It's got Showa single function forks, big piston. So it's coming with although they're non-adjustable, it's coming with really good quality kit. It's got a really nice compliant shock. The standard of finish on the paintwork and everything else is very good. So although you're losing out with a lot of the, if you like, the unnecessary, I think, unnecessary fancy bits, the actual core of the bike is still pretty good quality. So although we said that actually touring was quite feasible and in some cases would be an advantage doing it on something like this, it also comes with its challenges as well, and they particularly revolve around two-up touring. So if you do a lot of two-up touring, for example, you may find a downsize to something like this a stretch too far. You won't have that continent crushing ability that you've got on your big GS or your Multistrada, or indeed your Ninja SX. It won't have that, but it will do it, but it won't do it in this, as I say, with that same ease. And also your pillion may find the seat not as comfortable and they may not have as much space. So, as I say, if you do two-up touring on a regular basis, you may find a downsize to a light middleweight like this just a little bit too far.
So there you are. I posed to you earlier on those series of scenario questions about whether it was going to be right for you to downsize, and having taken you through some of the advantages, the pros of downsizing to a bike like this, the NX 47 horsepower bike, and the challenges that actually go with that downsizing, whether or not that is something that is going to be right for you and right for you now. Only you know the answer to that. What I can say is that for me, riding a bike like this, the NX, is a really pleasant experience. I really enjoy it. But I think the perfect scenario is probably what I've got at the moment. So I've got my big bike, I've got the Lita sports bike, but I've got this bike as well. But I can foresee, particularly in winter time when, you know, the roads are more challenging, and as we were saying, I'm less precious about this bike, this will be the go-to bike. So hopefully you found that really interesting. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Are you ready for downsizing? Are the challenges that I've highlighted things that are going to be relevant to you, things that you can deal with? If you've also if you have downsized and it's been a great success, let us know. Equally, if you're downsized and you found it's not for you, again, let us know in the comments below. So until the next time, this has been Alan at Blue Yonder Moto. Remember, keep it shiny side up. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.